As you saw, a Democratic member of the Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Chris Coons of Delaware, is with us in Washington. Senator, good morning. I want to ask you about what we're doing, what the United States is doing in terms of its aid. We hear that a short time from now, in a couple of hours, President Biden will be out again, which has become sort of a weekly announcement for him of a new aid package for Ukraine. You've talked about that, but you've also talked about the need to restore deterrence, in your words, against Russia. We heard Secretary Austin say a couple of days ago that it should be the aim of the United States to weaken the Russian military so it cannot project upon other countries or further upon Ukraine what it already has there. What do you mean when you say we need to restore deterrence?
Well, great to be on with you, and it's great to be on with a brave leader of the Belarusian people as well this morning. We need to restore the confidence of the West, the deterrence capabilities of NATO, and we need to punish Putin for his war of aggression against Ukraine. It is not enough for the Ukrainians to fight the Russians to a standstill. We need to provide them with the resources and the material to be able to win this conflict. I chaired a hearing yesterday with Secretary Blinken where we were talking about the resources that will be required to provide this, both the humanitarian and the military support. There was strong bipartisan participation, and Secretary Blinken, who's just returned from a trip to Kyiv with Secretary Austin, made it clear in response to questions from committee members that the administration intends to provide the resources necessary for Ukraine to win as the Ukrainians define it. I am also very concerned about the status of Georgia, Moldova, the Baltic states, and our eastern flank, critical NATO allies in addition to the Balts. And I think we need to be providing more resources and support to sustain the eastern flank of NATO and make it easy for them to be forward-leaning in this fight. I've just returned from leading a delegation that went to several countries in Europe. I do think our core allies are in a position to talk seriously about sanctions, about ending the importation of oil and gas. That'll be a key strategic blow to Russia. But we need to make this hurt economically, militarily, and we need to show the unity of the West. That's going to require the American people to sustain their focus on this. President Biden has done an outstanding job of leading through this, he and his cabinet, and they deserve the unified support of Congress and the American people.
So, Senator Coons, you talk about hurting Putin economically, hurting Putin militarily, and in other ways. New York Times headline today, Russia threatens more retaliation over Ukraine aid here. And with increasing frequency, the Russians are reminding the world of the size and power of their nuclear arsenal, an unsubtle warning that if President Vladimir Putin's conventional forces face any more humiliating losses, he has other options. What's your response to Americans who say, we don't want to start a third world war, and we certainly don't want to face the specter of nuclear warfare?
Well, in an earlier segment, you were talking with a guest about the history of the Cuban Missile Crisis, about how a young President Kennedy faced a really difficult, in fact, a decisive moment. This will be comparable. If Putin can brush us back with threats of using nuclear weapons and prevent us from aiding or supporting any country that is defending itself like Ukraine, then we're in a very different place. And then, frankly, other countries, whether it's North Korea or potentially in the future Iran, or, of course, China, if they can use their nuclear capabilities to bully and threaten and invade their way into regional dominance, then the security order, the peace not just of Europe but of the world that we have worked so hard to build with our critical global network of allies will come apart. This is a threat we should take seriously. I deeply respect that President Biden does not want to risk escalation to, as it were, World War III. But frankly, on some level, that conflict has already started, and we need to be clear-eyed about it.
So, as you mentioned, also with us, we have the Democratic opposition leader of Belarus, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, and it's very good to have you on the show. It was good to see you yesterday at the Institute of Peace. I want to get a sense of where things stand in terms of Belarus. How isolated what is the status of President Lukashenko? How isolated is he at this point?
Lukashenko lost election in 2020, and he's illegitimate person in our country with illegitimate government. People didn't choose them. But since then, because of huge repressions, people are fighting with this regime. They are resisting. And now regime involved Belarus in this war against Ukraine.
Right.
And Lukashenko became accomplice, collaborator in this war. But it was against people's will. Belarusian people don't want this fight. They don't want to participate. And 86% of people don't want our army to participate in this war. And I can claim 2 victories of Belarusian people in this war. So first of all, that Belarusian army didn't invade Ukraine, and the second one, that Russian troops didn't find a safe place in Belarus because of our partisans' fight.
Right. So how close are Lukashenko and Putin?
I would say that they have situational friendship. When they need each other, they use each other. So in 2020, Putin supported Lukashenko, and it gave him opportunity to survive. And now Lukashenko is paying debts to Putin. So he's providing our territory for launching missiles to Ukraine. And I doubt that Lukashenko controls military troops on our territory. The only thing he controls is repressions against people. So now Lukashenko is very fragile because on the one hand, Putin puts pressure on him. On the other hand, Lukashenko is isolated from the democratic world.
Give our viewers a sense of your backstory, which is fascinating. You never expected to be the opposition leader in Belarus. You're a mom, and your husband, both of you were fighters for freedom. He ends up in jail, and you end up running for president.
Yeah, when my husband decided to participate in pre-election campaign, he was put in jail because he was a threat for Lukashenko because of people's support. And I went instead of him. I wanted to support my husband, and then, I became national leader. People voted for me in 2020, but I'm still I'm representing Belarus, new Belarus, free Belarus, and at the same time I'm mother, watching every day how my children asking when our father will come back. They're writing letters to their daddy to prison, and it's awful to see. But it gives me power to move further, despite of all threats, despite of all repressions. I can't give up.
The world is uniting against Ukraine. NATO is sort of gaining steam, new members coming in, the EU in support of Ukraine, aid packages on the way. I'm just wondering if there is a possibility in your mind in which the people of Ukraine are able to push back and push out the Russians, and the people of Belarus would be able to push out Lukashenko at the same time, really transforming the Eurasian landscape. Is that a possibility?
I really believe in this because I see power of Ukrainian people, I see power of Belarusian people. And I understand that on the outcome of this war, the fate of Belarus depends. Without free Ukraine, there will be no free Belarus, and that's why it's also our Belarusian responsibility to support Ukrainians in this war. And that's why our partisans disrupted railways to stop providing Russian equipment to Russian army in Ukraine. Belarusian battalions were organized in Ukraine, and they joined Ukrainian army to defend their country, hence defending ours.
So describe how Lithuania and Poland have been supporting the opposition for Belarus, and what more could the Biden administration do?
Poland, Lithuania, and Ukraine became second homes for thousands of Belarusians who had to flee Belarus because of repressions. And Poland and Lithuania doing everything possible to make lives of refugees comfortable in their countries. And Belarusian people from Ukraine had to flee the war, so they became double refugees. And in this, we have a very difficult situation, the same as Ukrainian people. And we, on the one hand, we need to create multiple points of pressure on the regime, to exhaust regime through sanctions, through political isolation, economic isolation. On the other hand, to support civil society, because changes will come sooner or later. And till at that time, we will need a healthy, strong civil society to make this transition process smooth.